The judge's laugh hits first. It is small and hard and it lands like a stone in a pond. The whole room leans into that sound as if the sound were gravity. The boy stands by the defendant's table. His jacket is torn at the shoulder. A thread hangs there like a secret. The judge looks at the thread like it is proof. He taps the bench. "Look at that," he says, slow as a camera, and the words are meant to be the whole story. The courtroom breathes shame into the boy. The breath moves like a current, like weather. A whisper runs, "Poor trouble, not ours." The boy is 11. He keeps his eyes on his hands. They are folded in front of him, small and careful. The mother's knuckles are white on her purse. She does not cry. She does not speak. There is a silence after the judge's smile. It is heavy and mean. The bailiff clears his throat. The prosecutor's shoes shine under the long table. Outside, the sun is a winter blade on glass. Inside, power wears a robe and makes jokes about rags. The camera of the mind sticks on the boy's face, small, steady, unreadable. Someone coughs. The judge jokes about the jacket's story. Laughter rises like a small storm. It runs the room. It makes a line between those who belong and those who do not. But the boy does not laugh. He breathes slow. He counts his breath. In his mind, he is somewhere else. He remembers a street corner. He remembers a shelter. He remembers a teacher with a name tag, a voice that said, "You can come to class." He remembers a man handing him the jacket and saying, "Keep warm." The man's hands were work hands. They smelled of coffee and bleach. They smelled like early mornings and last trains. The man used a name the boy keeps private. The name is soft in his mouth. It is not a name the room expects. The name is not for sale. The judge bangs his gavel as if to hammer the boy into the place the world has labeled for him. The hook pulls hard. The world of the courtroom is a stage and someone has already decided the boy's role. Yet in the quiet between words, the boy's dignity is still there, unbought, unbroken. The judge leans forward now, eyes wet with the small light that robes give people. He makes the jacket the joke. He asks where it came from as if asking where a stain came from. The mother stands and her voice is a thin wire. She says it was given. It was given to keep him warm. The judge shakes his head like he is disappointed in a broken machine. "Who gives such things?" he says, and the words are not questions. They are verdicts in disguise. The prosecutor smiles with the kind of teeth that have never been on a street. He lists the boy's file like a menu. He uses words the boy does not own. Delinquent, repeat pattern. The room nods at the words. The judge's laugh returns and builds like thunder in a small storm. The boy keeps his hands folded. He looks at the floor. He can feel the eyes like weather. They find the river between his ribs and they dip into it for proof. The lawyer for the family moves like a small bird. He pleads a truth that sounds quiet next to the judge's laugh. He says the jacket came from a stranger on the bus. He says the stranger was kind. He says the stranger was a worker who could not have known how the world would slice the boy later. The judge's face is a map of questions that do not include mercy. "This is theater," he says, and he smiles. The room smiles with him. The boy remembers the jacket's pockets. He remembers the warmth. He remembers the stranger's eyes. They were private and patient. The boy remembers the stranger's hands, calloused, careful, holding the jacket out like a small peace offering. The boy remembers the name the stranger used when he handed the jacket over. He said the boy's name the way a man uses a rope to pull someone from a river. The boy holds that name close. It is his anchor. The judge's words are like feathers. They brush and leave no mark. The boy's memory is a stone. It sinks. The people who wear shine in the room do not understand what it is to wrap a child in a jacket because you have seen a winter that will not wait for paperwork. They do not know the economy of small mercies. They tally mistakes. They count what can be blamed. They do not count what was given. A camera would hold the mother's face now. It would find the steady lines around her mouth. It would find the hurt that is careful not to become a cry. She looks at her son and she cries inside. The boy turns his head a fraction. Their eyes meet for a slip of breath. There is a story held between them that the judge cannot read. The bailiff shifts his weight. The air is thin with the judge's authority. The judge's robe fills the room like a shadow. He speaks as if law is a light that must be kept bright by scolding. He speaks slowly and the words fall like coins. "We cannot reward sloppiness," he says. "We cannot reward the absence of responsibility." The prosecutor nods. A woman in the gallery leans forward with a whisper of satisfaction. On social currency hums in the pews. A man in a suit folds his paper and looks away. He will not meet the boy's eyes. He has work to do tomorrow that is not this. The boy looks at the judge. He sees the judge's hands. They are not the hands that handed him warmth. They are not the hands that cleaned rooms or broke dawn. They are the hands that tuck paperwork into folders. The boy knows hands. Inside the boy, something grows patient and small. It is not bitterness. It is a light that does not make noise. He remembers the teacher who stayed after class and put his hand on the boy's shoulder and said, "You will be more than what they call you." That promise sits like a coin in his pocket. The judge's laugh becomes a drumbeat. The sound wants to lead the room to a conclusion. The weight of the robe wants to press his verdict into the boy's back, but the boy's face remains like glass. The world wants a confession. The world wants a bow. The world wants humiliation that can be filed under neat labels. The boy keeps a kind of balance. He lets the world do its rough work. He keeps his own center. He watches the judge as a student might watch a clock. He learns the measure of power in long, slow looks. He learns where cruelty likes to stand. He learns how to find small kindness in pockets of a jacket. Outside the courthouse, the sun sharpens things. Inside, the judge's laughter makes a map where the boy is a dot to be circled. People shift in their chairs. The camera would cut to the stranger's hands in the memory. Those hands had been steady. Those hands had given what the world had not: warmth. The stranger had no place inside this room. He belonged to lines of work the room thinks small. The stranger's name is not in the files. He will likely never be called to speak here. But his act is a mark on the boy that no robe can scrub away. The judge bangs the gavel again. The sound echoes, it insists, it asks for an ending that the room can agree on. The boy breathes, and the breath is a story that refuses to be borrowed. He does not laugh, he does not beg, he stands small, but his posture is not broken. In the hush that follows the gavel, something else happens. A woman in the gallery reaches for her bag and pauses. The pause is long enough to be a decision. A man next to her clears his throat. The judge waits for agreement. The room waits for the boy to break. The boy does not break. He only keeps one thing: a name, a warmth, a small future that belongs to him. The judge's robe is heavy and the laughter tries to make truth. But at the heart of the silence, a lesson sits quiet as the winter sun outside. Dignity cannot be lent by a robe nor leased by a laugh. It either lives or it is dead. The room will try to name him. The room will try to decide who he is by the torn edge of a sleeve. But the torn sleeve is not the whole story. There is a hand that offered warmth. There is a teacher who believed. There is a boy who already knows how to keep a promise to himself. The gavel waits. The next sound will change the room. The next breath will decide if mercy is more than a word. The hook has done its work. The scene holds. The world leans forward. The story is only beginning. The hours that follow grow heavy, the kind of heavy that sits on your chest and makes every breath feel borrowed. The small cruelties start slow, like drops from a leaking faucet, and then they gather, stack, and harden into something that looks like truth to people who never lived near the boys' street. Paperwork becomes proof. Not real proof, just paper with lines and stamps and the shape of official words. The prosecutor lifts it like a trophy. He taps the pages with a pen, each tap a small hammer against the boy's name. Witnesses come forward with voices full of certainty, the kind that sounds rehearsed, the kind that avoids doubt like doubt is a crime. "He's from the wrong side," one says, and the words spread through the room like a stain. A reporter angles her camera to catch the moment, hoping the boy will look up so she can get the shot that sells. She does not get the shot. The boy keeps his eyes down. He watches the corner of the table, tracing its shape in silence. The prosecutor pulls out a long chart. He draws lines on it like a man drawing fences around land he never owned. "These patterns matter," he says, as if a line on a board can redraw a child's life. The mother's voice breaks as she tries to answer questions. Without confidence, her words fall apart, small letters tripping over each other. She stumbles on legal terms like they are stones in a river she's forced to cross alone. A man behind her sighs, and she winces like she's been struck. The judge listens with the cold patience of someone who has already chosen a direction and is simply waiting for the rest of the world to catch up. His barbs come dressed as lessons. "Appearances matter," he says, leaning forward, and the room nods like schoolchildren learning rules about posture. And respect. The lesson isn't about truth, it's about control, it's about power, and the boy sits beneath it like a shadow under a tall wall. Outside, a billionaire's limousine idles at the curb, quiet, smooth, polished like a black stone dipped in money. No one inside the courtroom notices it yet, but later the viewer will understand why that detail mattered. Inside, the air feels like judgment before judgment has even been spoken. The boy's schoolteacher rises. His hands shake a little, but his voice carries a small kind of courage. He talks about a quiet child who sat in the back of the class, reading by borrowed light from the hallway. He talks about a boy who stayed after school to erase chalkboards not for money, but because he liked the smell of clean slate. He says the boy had never hurt anyone. He says it with conviction, with something like love threaded through the words. But when the teacher looks toward the bench, the judge's gaze slides past him, bored, uninterested. The silence that follows isn't empty. It is an accusation wrapped in quiet. A social worker steps up and begins to speak in a voice that tries too hard to sound neutral. She talks about poverty as risk, about unstable homes, about statistics that flatten human faces into numbers. The boy hears the word risk and feels like she is peeling off pieces of him without asking. The defense lawyer, thin and quick, jumps forward to object, to argue, to fight for the boy's name with every breath he has left. His voice tries to rise above the room, but the machinery of blame is loud. It rolls over him. The gallery leans, breath held tight, like a trapped animal waiting for a door that never opens. The judge looks down at the boy again, not at his face, not at his eyes, at the torn sleeve. The same torn sleeve that started the day as a joke and has now become a symbol of everything the world thinks it knows about poverty. The judge stares at it as if cloth can speak louder than truth, as if a child's worth is measured by fabric. The imbalance in the room grows, thick and official. You can taste the injustice like metal in the air. Then for one moment, just one, the boy speaks. His voice is soft. It is precise, like he is choosing each word with a kind of gentle courage. Someone in the jury box shifts. A woman mid-50s, tired eyes, hands clasped, hears something real in the boy's voice, something human, something honest. Her breath catches, and for a heartbeat the scale trembles. For a heartbeat there is a chance. But the courtroom is a machine, and machines do not pause for heartbeats. The prosecutor stands again, blocking the juror's moment with a stack of files as tall as his belief in himself. He talks numbers, he talks patterns, he talks risk. The social worker nods, the judge nods, a security guard shifts his weight. The whisper in the gallery becomes a rhythm: plea, reduction, paperwork, move the body through the system, forget the face, forget the name, forget the boy. The teacher sits down, shoulders fallen. The mother clutches her purse like it is the last door she can hold shut. The boy looks at his torn sleeve again. The memory of the man who gave it rushes up fast, the warmth of the jacket, the quiet smile, the name spoken with care. The boy flinches, not because of the tear, but because the world in this room has turned that gift into evidence against him. He does not say the man's name. He holds it back, protects it, protects him. Some names deserve shelter. The judge leans forward. His robe sweeps around him like a dark tide. There is no kindness in his eyes, only a belief that he is right, the kind of belief that has leveled families, the kind that has broken futures, the kind that wraps itself in law and calls itself justice. The silence rises again, heavy, thick, watching. The boy lifts his head, not high, not defiant, just enough to see the man who holds his future in a single sentence. He looks at the judge, really looks, and in that look there is no fear, only a question: do you see me, or do you see only what you expect to see? The judge sees only fabric. He sees only the sleeve. The teacher sees the boy. The juror feels her heart turn. The mother prays silently. The prosecutor sharpens his next words. And outside, the billionaire's limousine still waits, engine soft, window dark, like a secret waiting to step into the story. The imbalance grows, the scale tips, and the boy sits on the side no one wants to defend. The scene tastes of injustice, bitter, cold. The music tightens. And you can feel it, something is about to break. The doors open with a slow groan, the kind of sound that doesn't belong to routine, and every head in the courtroom turns before they even know why. Footsteps echo across the marble floor, steady, calm, deliberate. They are not the footsteps of lawyers rushing between cases or deputies shifting from one duty to the next. These steps carry weight, the kind that makes people str. In their backs without thinking. He walks in slow as a headline breaking across the bottom of a TV screen. His presence spreads before his body arrives. Expensive wool bends around him with a grace that doesn't ask for permission. It just exists, like the kind of power the room rarely sees up close. He is older than the cameras would have guessed, older than the stories printed about him, but there is something sharper in his eyes than any photograph could ever hold. And when he stops walking, he doesn't look at the judge. He doesn't glance at the prosecutor. He looks straight at the boy, direct, unflinching, quiet, and the air, already cold with judgment, freezes solid. A murmur rises and then dies just as quickly, swallowed by the tension. People in their seats shift, their bodies reacting before their minds catch up. They know who he is, maybe not by name, but by presence, by the kind of silence that forms around wealth like gravity. He is the real owner, the man behind the winter drive, the man who wrote a check big enough to warm an entire neighborhood. Months ago, he had paid for a run of thick jackets, stitched by hands that worked late into nights in neighborhoods no one in this courtroom ever drives through. It was one of those jackets, one of those gifts, that now hangs torn on the shoulder of an 11-year-old boy being judged for its tear, not thanked for its warmth. He was supposed to testify in another room, another case, another story. He was not meant to witness this humiliation. But when the judge mocked the jacket earlier, when the laughter ran thin and sharp across the courtroom, someone outside had whispered it to him. Someone had said, "They're laughing at that boy's coat." And something inside him, something private, something he hadn't touched in years, clicked awake. Not anger, not guilt, something deeper, recognition. He steps toward the gallery rail and raises his hand. He doesn't raise it fast. He raises it like a man unused to asking for permission to speak, but willing to wait for silence anyway. And silence comes. It folds over the room like a curtain dropping before the first scene of a play. Even the judge stills, his gavel paused in midair. The billionaire rests his hand lightly on the rail and speaks. His voice is calm, contained, but it carries through the room like warm light through cold air. He begins with a story, not the boy's story, his own. He tells them about nights when he was a boy in a house with broken radiators, nights when blankets were thin and the wind pushed through old windows like it owned the place. He talks about the aunt who sewed him a coat, dark blue, too big, stitched with care and hope, and how he wore it until the elbows gave out. He talks about how people judge coats when they don't know what coats can mean, how fabric can hold dignity the way skin holds scars. He looks at the boy again and then he tells the court what they ignored. He knows that jacket, he funded it, he knows the stitch. He knows the seamstress, a woman named Rosa who lives 2 blocks from the boys' school, who sews kindness into every thread because she believes warm children learn better. He tells them he has proof, a receipt, a note, a record of the donation. He pulls a folded page from his coat, a page that carries more truth than the prosecutor's entire stack of charts. The prosecutor shifts, his certainty cracking at the edges. The judge's smirk thins into something that looks almost like confusion. Reporters lean forward, eager and hungry, the red light on their cameras blinking with renewed life. The billionaire does not raise his voice. He does not throw money as a weapon. He does something far more dangerous. He turns his status into a mirror and holds it up to the courtroom. And what they see reflected is not wealth, it is truth. A truth they try to bury under jokes and paperwork. He asks simple questions, the kind that sound harmless until they land. Did you ask this boy where he got the jacket? Did you ask why it was torn? Did you ask what story he carries, instead of writing one for him? Each question slices through the air, soft but sharp. The judge blinks. The prosecutor swallows. Even the social worker looks down at her notes like they betrayed her. The boy sits still, watching this man talk, watching him tilt the world just a little in his direction. The teacher in the corner recognizes the shift first. He sits up straighter, hope returning to his eyes like light returning to the edge of dawn. The mother's grip on her purse loosens. Her shoulders tremble with relief too fragile to name. And the juror, the one who heard honesty earlier in the boy's voice, leans forward, her breath held, her heart turning with the weight of truth. The billionaire steps closer, not to intimidate, to reveal. He tells Rose's story, how she sews late into the night because she can't afford to turn down work, how he funded her shop when the city almost shut it down. How she stitched every jacket with the same care she stitched into her own son's clothes. How tearing a jacket like this is not a sign of crime or neglect. It is a sign of life, of running, of playing, of surviving winter in a neighborhood where sidewalks ice before sunrise. He asks the boy if he remembers the day he received it. The boy nods, small and shy. The nod lands like an arrow in the quiet. The truth opens a crack, then a beam, then a flood. For the first time all day, the power in the room shifts, not loudly, not with chaos, quietly, like a breath turning into a sigh, like judgment turning into doubt. People who had been certain now have to look again at the boy, at the jacket, at their own assumptions. The prosecutor lays his pen down. The judge clears his throat, but no joke comes out. Even the bailiff looks away, ashamed of how quickly he had joined the laughter earlier. The billionaire rests his hand on the rail and finishes with a final truth, spoken softly enough that everyone leans forward to hear it. Dignity, he says, is not measured by clothes. It is measured by how we treat the person wearing them. And in that moment, the room falls into a silence that feels like apology, like realization, like the start of something new. In that moment, dignity, not dollars, redeems the boy. And the story, once tilted, begins to level. Climax does not come like thunder. It comes like a window being opened in a stuffy room. The air moves, people breathe differently. The judge sits back and for the first time the weight of what he said presses on his chest. His barbs return to him like thrown stones. They do not stay sharp, they come back dull and heavy. He looks smaller in his robe, he clears his throat. The room tilts toward him, waiting for the old sound, the laugh that made the boy small, but the laugh is gone. His voice is small now. He says the word everyone was waiting for without theater. He apologizes. It is not a grand apology with music. It is a small, plain thing, and that makes it more painful and truer. "I'm sorry," he says, and everyone hears it. The apology is a crack in the armor. It makes room. It makes the air usable again. The billionaire does more than hold up truth. He moves. He does not throw money like a bandage over a broken thing. He picks up the boy's life and asks the court to set it right. He speaks to a lawyer he trusts in the hallway, words short and sure, and that lawyer comes back with papers and a plan. He pledges funds for school, for books, for a mentor who will teach the boy how to read more than pages, how to read people and opportunities. He pledges funds for a program that will teach other boys their worth beyond fabric and rumor, a program named for the seamstress who made the jackets, the woman no court had thought to call a witness until now. The billionaire does not pretend to have fixed everything. He says that out loud. He says the system still stinks. He says that power must be watched and kindness must be acted. He stands in the middle of that room and offers a path through the mess. It is not a miracle. It is a start. It is a door opened for one boy and a promise to hold it open for more. The mother presses her hands together and then unfolds them again and again like she is smoothing out a paper that keeps folding. Each fold holds a small hope. She tests the hope with her thumb as if to see if it is real. Her face is weathered with waiting, but something in it changes now. A line softens, a breath eases. She smiles with her eyes. She does not heap thanks at the billionaire because she knows better than to make gratitude a debt. She folds and unfolds the same new tiny hope until it holds steady enough to carry. The teacher in the back of the room looks like he might cry, but he does not. He blinks hard and nods at the boy like a man who knows the slow work of planting seeds. The jurors sit back with their hands folded. They look ashamed, not because they were cruel on purpose, but because they were careless. They believed a story that fit their comfort. They forgot to look. The shame sits in their mouths like a bad taste. They do not know how to fix that taste, but they know it is theirs. The judge's change is awkward. He does not stand and become saintly. He fumbles, he says the wrong thing and then corrects it. He stumbles through a sentence that wants to be sincere and almost loses it. That is the real shift, human and messy. Awareness is not always beautiful. Sometimes it is clumsy as a child learning to walk, but he learns to look. He says haltingly that the court will consider the new evidence. He thanks the man who spoke up. He asks for a record of the donation to be entered. It is small, but it is legal, and that matters in the world the judge runs. The billionaire nods and steps back. He does not ask for praise. He does not want credit. He wanted truth to be seen. He wanted the boy to be seen. Power did not vanish. The courtroom is still full of people who wear decisions like coats. The system still breathes its old habits, but a light has been set small like a candle at a vigil, and it will not be snuffed easily. The billionaire used his light not to blind but to point. He turned his status into a mirror and showed the room itself. In that view, the room saw its lines and cracks. In that view, the torn jacket was no longer a symbol of guilt. It was a mark of a life that had kept going in winter. The boy walks out differently. Maybe not as tall, maybe only a little straighter, maybe only with his chin lifted half an inch more toward the sky. Or maybe he walks out exactly the same height and simply seen for the first time. Either way, something in him changed. The small steady thing inside, dignity, was not taken from him. It had been there all along. Now others were forced to notice it. The final beat is quiet and sharp. Clothes can be torn. Names can be forgotten. People can be judged by hems and labels, and still dignity persists when someone chooses to notice. That is the lesson unbuttoned. When you notice, you interrupt a story that has been written for someone else. You give them back the right to write their own. The courtroom exhales like a long-held breath finally let go. People step back into their lives carrying a new small ache of awareness. Mercy here is not a feeling to be admired. It is an action to be taken. The billionaire lights a path through a small portion of the system. He does not erase the system. He opens a way through it and holds a hand out. The judge promises to watch his language in the future. The jurors promise, maybe only to themselves, to be better readers of human detail. The lawyer files the papers. The teacher writes down the names of kids who might need jackets next winter. The mother practices saying the boy's name with pride, not apology. The camera pulls back. The torn jacket, folded carefully on a chair, flutters when a door opens and closes like a small flag left after a battle. It is not a prize, it is not a warning. It is a thing that once warmed a child. A child's small, steady breathing fills the frame, and the sound is a simple human rhythm. There is no sermon, only a quiet parable. Never let fabric name a life. Power must be watched. Mercy must be enacted. Respect is the truest currency, and for a moment, brief and bright, the world learns that lesson. The story ends not with a bow but with work to be done. The boy walks into the light of a winter that will be easier now, and the room that tried to name him finally has to reckon with what they almost lost. A boy who deserved dignity all along.